guys, welcome back. I got the hood all buffed out. It's looking real good. Might be a few little minor scratches I got to go over again. I put the front emblems on, so the hood's ready to go on. Once my buddy stops down here, we will put that on. And then I wanted to make a video here. I'll later on in the video you'll see the hood on the car, but I got a little run in one of these wheel skirts. Now this wheel skirt's been sitting for at least 6 months since it's been painted. So it's been painted for a while. So I have not wet sanded and buffed these at all. I want to show you a method of how to knock down a run easier than trying to sand it out, because what happens is a lot of times if you try to sand this out, you'll end up burning through somewhere. So the easiest way to knock it down is take a razor blade. Usually I don't get too many runs, but these were hanging in the spray booth and they were kind of moving back and forth from the wind of the spray gun, and it just got a little close and made a little run right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some masking tape here, and I am going to go around the outer edge of the blade, just like that, on each side. Leave the center open. Then basically I'm just going to take my razor blade here and I'm going to start scratching this. Now you don't want to do this on clear that's not old. You got to let it sit for a while, because if you try to do this on clear that's only a couple days old, it's not going to work. You're probably going to end up messing it up. But if you look here, you see how it's just shaving that down? And now you can really see where that run was. So you just keep going until you have it pretty much flat, which I'm pretty much almost there now. A little bit high still. Okay, I might have to take the tape off. Sometimes the tape works, sometimes it doesn't. I would especially use the tape if it's a newer paint job, you know, a couple weeks old, because it still could be a little soft on the edges. Now I know that I have 3 good coats of clear on these parts, so I'm not too worried about it. But you can see how nice it just shaves it down. You want to try to get it as flat as possible. And I can barely feel it now. You can also, I've seen guys put Bondo over a run so that when you sand it, you're sanding the Bondo around the outer edges versus the paint. But I've had pretty good luck with this method here. I just want to go until I pretty much have it all gone. Okay, it's pretty much gone. Tiny little dimple there, but that'll come out when I wet sand. So now that I have this knocked down completely flat, I'm going to go ahead and 1200 grit block sand this whole wheel skirt down. And then I'm going to do 1500, 2000, 3000, 5000, and then buff it. It's a little ripply right now because there's a lot of clear on it. And like, once again, it was hanging in the spray booth and it was kind of blowing back and forth when I was clearing it. So it was a little hard to lay down a real smooth finish. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this wet sanded and buffed, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. But this is where the run was, just so you know. It was second hole from the end here, straight across. So we'll look at it afterwards. I'll see if I can get a good camera angle on it so you can see that you can no longer see it once I'm done. Okay, I've already 1200 gritted it. Now I'm working on 1500 grit. What I have here is basically 4 paint sticks that I just taped together. And I made sure that the flat surface is smooth. You don't want to have like a tape joint right here. And then I just wrap my sandpaper around this block, just like that. And then I just lightly apply pressure. You don't want to put a ton of force on it because you will leave grooves in your finish. So you just want to put a little bit of pressure on it and just work it down. Basically, I cut it with 1200. Now I'm cutting it with 1500. So basically, once you get it cut down flat with the 1200, the 1500, you're still cutting a little bit with 1500. That's why I'm still using a block. Once I get done with 1500, I'm going to do 2000 by hand. And then everything else above that will be on the DA sander. But basically, once you get it cut flat, all you're really doing at that point is taking out the sanding marks from the previous sandpaper. So because I have 1200 grit sanding marks in here, the 1500 grit's going to get those out. And then the 2000 grit's going to get the 1500 marks out, and so on. And that's basically why it's good to use a bunch of different sandpapers, so that it makes it easier to buff in the end. Now I have DA paper that goes 3000 grit, 5000, and 8000. Once you're done with the 8000, it makes your buffing a heck of a lot easier because it's already, that 8000 grit is starting to polish the paint. So I'll show you what it looks like after the 8000 grit so that you can see how it's starting to take a shine back to it. Because obviously after this 1500 grit here, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but you can see it's like perfectly dull. So once you can see how dull and milky that looks, that's 1500 grit. Once we get up to the 8000, I'll turn the camera back on and show you what it looks like before I even start running the buffer on it, so you get an idea of how shiny that 8000 actually makes it. You can buff after 2000 grit. You can buff after 1500 grit, but you're going to be there a long time. It's going to take a long time to get those sanding marks out of there. And to me, it's better to just keep sanding until you don't have to polish it or buff as much. So I'll be back once I get done with 8000 and show you what it looks like. Okay, this is 1500 grit wiped off. I forgot to mention, between each grit of sandpaper, wipe your panel down. If you have any debris or anything like that, you want to wipe it off so that you don't make any deep scratches in your clear coat. The more you keep your panel clean, the better it'll turn out. Also, I recommend soaking your sandpaper. That's just warm water in a cup. Let it soak for a little bit to soften up the paper, makes it easier to sand, and it's less likely to stick onto your panel as you're sanding with it. Okay, the wheel skirts are up to 8000. See that shine? Haven't even touched it with a buffer, and you can see the shine already coming back in the paint. This looks like a 30-year-old paint job that needs to be buffed out. So you can, obviously, here's the difference between the hood, which is hard to see, and that. It's not too far off. I use a couple different types of compounds. The one in the ketchup bottle here, that is what I use first. That's a Wizard product. I think it's Heavy Cut or something like that. And then I use, I started using all these chemical guys, compounds and waxes and stuff. They work pretty good. Every compound has a different pad for it, different color pad. So I'm gonna go ahead and buff this up and then put the moldings on it, and we'll take a look at it. Okay, I buffed on this for about 2-3 minutes and got half of it done already. Now the first compound is the most important compound, because I try to get every bit of the scratches and imperfections out with the first compound. If you get everything out with the first compound, everything from then on is easy. So just keep that in mind. So basically, once you get everything out with the first compound, every other compound after that is just taking out the scratches from the compound previous. And also, once again, wipe it down just like you would when you wet sand between each coat of compound. Okay, I've got the first compound done. Now let me show you guys a little trick on what I do. I'm using a lot of compound on the panel and the pad because this clear dries really hard. and it's really hard to shine up. And that's another reason why I went up to 8,000 grit sandpaper. Now, before I go to my next compound, what I like to do is spray the panel down with water. All right, and then buff it again. No more compound, just buff it with what's on the wheel. What that does is, see how it's putting more compound onto the panel? What that's doing is A, cleaning your pad, and it is making this compound more of a finer compound. So basically it's breaking the compound down and giving it more of a finer, refined compound, which just helps. And it cleans your pad at the same time, so it works out pretty good. I don't use wool pads. You know, when you use wool pads, you can just spin the wool pad after the compound dries and with like a screwdriver and clean the compound off of it. It's not as easy to do that with a foam pad. So I like to use the water method and it cleans it off. Okay, it's all buffed out. If you guys remember, that run was across from the second hole up and it's gone. Can't even see any signs of it. So that scraping with the razor blade is a really good way to knock it down. I'm gonna put the molding on the top here and the front. I don't have the stars or the exhaust ports yet, so those won't be going on just yet, but I wanna get this molding on and the front guard molding on, rock guard, wherever they call that one. I don't know, I gotta see if I have the hardware to put the molding on. I'm pretty sure I have the tabs that go inside of the molding with the nuts on the backside. I got to double check though. And then also on these, I painted the back sides of them body color. Now, most of these wheel skirts, they bolt them onto the car. So they'll latch them on and then they end up bolting them to the car because people like to steal these. And at least if you bolt them on the car, it takes a heck of a lot longer to try to get them off the car than if it were just clamped on with the clamp. So, all right, I'm going to go get these moldings, hopefully put on if I have the hardware, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, the moldings are on this one. So now I'm going to work on the next one. Front guard's on. So the only thing left to do is the stars and the ports. I believe it's 3 and 3. Not positive, don't quote me on that. So that's all that's left on this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this away and work on sanding the other one while I wait for my buddy to come down and help me with the hood. All right, the hood's installed. I have it really close adjustment, not far off at all. Let me shut it here. So it's fitting pretty darn good. My gaps look real good down the fenders. Not too bad. Hair tight right here. Might have to open that up just a little bit there. I'm working on adjusting this door. I had to bring this fender in, which I had talked about that in the past because this gap was real big here. So I brought the fender in, now I gotta bring the door in. That's the next thing, and I gotta adjust this a little bit there so that I'm a little bit more even like I am on that side. All right, well, that's gonna end this video. That's where I'm at so far. I'm gonna work on adjusting the rest of this front end and that door today and get this other wheel skirt wet sanded and buffed and get the moldings on that. And then, like I said, I'm waiting on these moldings. We had to return the other ones and order new ones because they were rusting. So that's gotta get fixed. But other than that, next thing I'm gonna be working on is finishing the passenger window, get that installed. Then I can put the felt strips on. After the windows are all done, I will be doing the convertible top. I have to bleed it and fill it with fluid and make sure it goes up and down. I gotta make a wiring harness for that as well. Once that is done, I could put down the matting that goes on the floor for the sound deadening. And then really getting close to finishing here. Not too much more to go. I gotta get the front bumper bracket so I can get the front bumper installed. A couple other little parts I need, and then it's ready for final buffing and it'll be out of here. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you're liking what you're seeing, please like, subscribe, share. Any questions or comments, feel free to ask. Other than that, I will see you guys later.